Welcome to the Steady On podcast, where God's hard truth meets your hard story. I'm Angie Bauman, and this is a fiction-focused bonus episode with my dear ministry friend, Christy-award-winning author Robin W. Pearson. Along with writing novels, Robin is an editor, a homeschooling mom of 7, and author of the Mommy Concentrated blog. In her latest novel, Walking in Tall Weeds, she introduces us to the Baldwin family who must confront things in the past to move forward in their relationships. Robin deals with interracial relationships, complex family dynamics, and what it means to walk in grace and forgiveness, ultimately leaving her reader with a reminder that God's love is the glue that holds us and everything together. Along with the new book, we'll also chat about personal discoveries of tall weeds in our relationships and how God lovingly calls us to tend to them. I always enjoy my time with Robin, and today's conversation is no exception. Let's listen in. Hello, Steady On community, and welcome into this bonus fiction-focused podcast episode. I'm Angie Bauman, and with me again today is my dear ministry friend, Christy-award-winning author, Robin W. Pearson. Robin, welcome back to the Steady On community.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Robin is a known voice around here. She is featured in episode 34 a long time ago when we talked about a long time coming, right? That's when we first connected, and I'm going to link that episode in the description today so you can find it if you want. And she was one of our speakers at the Known virtual event about a year ago now already. That's almost been a year. And now you have a new book coming out, Walking in Tall Weeds. Did I get that right? Walking in Tall Weeds. And I'm going to ask you about that in a minute, the title, but I have one too. Yay. And I want to talk to you about your stories, though. In general, your stories tackle tricky family dynamics. And I just wonder, will you tell us kind of what are the pain points in this novel for you and what compelled you to tackle them?
It was an interesting question. We are, I've been married about almost 28 years at this point, and you think you know everything, and you're just kind of walking and almost into the sunset. Not quite. I know my parents were married almost 60 years, so I'm not there yet. But still, now you know things and you're moving forward. But we're learning so many different things. Like every stage of life, you unfold, something, you unpack something, and so. Just thinking about that, thinking about all the things that are going on in our country that have, just been unfolding. And you think, okay, we've been there, done that, but still there's so much, that we're learning about each other and learning about relating to each other and loving each other and forgiving each other. And I wanted to write about those things, how that plays out between mother and son, between father and son, husband and wife, how we love people in our community. And so with all the things that happened, and we've been here these last, 2 years with pandemic and all of that. And so I just wanted to, the Lord just led me to write about those things, those kind of pain points, I guess that, you think you're not still sensitive to them, but you are.
Yeah. It's interesting how I was just talking to a friend whose family had just gotten back from a Walt Disney World vacation for the first time. And her kids are I think about 8th grade, 6th grade, that kind of age, and her husband, and the 4 of them went. And when she was back and we were kind of unpacking her trip or whatever, she was like, I learned so much about my family by watching how they responded, because that's a big trip. It can be stressful. Yeah. It's hot. It is expensive. Some of these things it can bring out. So this big event in their life that was a positive, and it was a positive, but she talked about how watching them sort of under stress or in new environments, because none of them had ever been there. She's like, I just learned so much about my husband and about my kids. And that made me, when you were talking about that, we go through events. Now that's a family vacation, but we go through events, good and bad, right? That reveal things about the people we think we know best, and all of a sudden you're like, I didn't know that was in there.
And it's, even with all of the, being home, we've homeschooled now for, forever. And you think, okay, this is our comfortable place, and we're used to being around each other, and we're used to, this isn't new to us. But still, there's so much that God took away those things that you found comfort in and reveal more of himself, reveal more about other people. And we can't get, complacent in how we love others, even those closest to us. And I think that's what happened, in this couple that I wrote about, just the complacency that comes in that comfortable, relationship. And you get complacent in the feelings and the bitterness and all of those things, and you get used to it and operating in it. But as believers, God's not going to leave you, for the people that he loves, he's not going to leave you in that spot, of just being comfortable in those. He's going to keep you moving and progressing and moving you into a different pain point, if you will.
Yeah.
I
love what you were just saying, because I think you're so right about, we can get complacent in the love, but also in the bitterness, I think you used, or something else, like, so, because we can take the love for granted, either that they love us in a marriage relationships for granted, but also that they know we love them. Like, what, how intentional am I still? My husband and I've been married, it'll be 24 years this summer. How intentional am I still for letting him know I would still pick you? Right. I think I'm not great at that day in and day out, because he knows it. Right. And you just think he knows it, but there are days that it might be really wonderful for him to hear that. I promise there are, because there are days it's wonderful for me to hear it.
Right.
And also, I think you're right. We do get comfortable in the things that aren't as good, but we've we've figured out how to live with them. And so we just don't deal with them anymore. Yeah. And even if we were able to deal with them, poke on them a little bit, unpack them a little bit, it could potentially, especially as believers, if we follow the leading of the Lord in that, it would actually strengthen that relationship and take it to a different place.
That's right.
Yeah. So from these characters, what are you hoping your readers will walk away from? What kind of hope or encouragement do you think this story or these characters will give those who are reading it? What's your hope in that?
I hope that they'll look at them and see themselves. One of my, I guess, pet peeves, I'm not sure, but when someone describes the book and they describe it as this African-American family or this African-American story, or, and it's a story and it's a family. And I want, readers to see themselves, no matter, what color, what background, because I feel like they're living out what we're dealing with, what everyone is dealing with. How do I relate? How do I love through all these different phases and stages of life? How do I love someone who doesn't look like me? How do I, even in your own family, I have adult children. I say children, I know I'm not supposed to put that. Those two things go together.
Yes.
So they oxymorons. But, how do you relate to them as they grow up and they don't respond the way you feel like you've taught them to respond, or that, we're thinking along, the same lines, and, they're making choices that are different from what you would have them choose, but that it's okay. And I can learn from that. They can still learn from me, that type of thing. So I hope people will come away from it just a different, way, or just seeing themselves and wanting to change, or going, yes, I get that. And wanting to share it, not seeing it as this other story or other people, but something they can identify with.
That it's my story too.
Yeah, it's my story too. Because, with relationships, any relationship is just difficulties because you bring yourself with you, even like when you went to Florida, I've been reading about you going to Florida. I'm sure you went along, right? Like you packed yourself up. And sometimes I look around and I'm like, oh my gosh, I came along. I didn't mean to, bring myself with me. Those things that even on vacation, those same things and same problems, or same, problems you may have with your spouse, they're still there. And just because you're on vacation and walking around Disney World, you still have to, sometimes it even gets worse because it gets compressed or whatever. So
Yeah, that's why my friend and I were, because we had both like within a week's time taken our kids to Disney. And so we were sitting around talking about that and talking about what we'd learned and the things that got hard. And mostly the things that did get hard is because we brought ourselves with us. You know, there was one situation where I was in tears while we were there because I thought the kids weren't going to get to be able to do something that they really wanted to do. And, you know, what's that about? That's not, I mean, that, you know, my kids are be okay if they don't get to do everything they want to do, but there's something deeper in that about I'm afraid of disappointing them, or I'm afraid they won't like me as well if I can't live up to their expectations, or like, that's like that. If you're willing to if you're willing to have, and to be able to have that conversation with the kids at an age appropriate level, that actually I'm upset, not because I'm angry at you because you want something, but I'm scared I can't live up to what you want, or, you know, whatever, that's an opportunity for a deeper conversation. And
that you have, you know, it's important for them to see you as a person, you know, to see you as mom, is that even as they, you know, age. And, you know, I'm a person who is struggling with this thing, and I'm not going to always come with this holy response, you know, I'm going to come as Robin, and and I don't like this thing, or this hurts me, or, you know, so.
Because you're right. We don't ever leave those things at home. We do carry them with us, and we carry them into our parenting and into our marriage and into our friendships. And the more we are willing to look at ourselves to see like what hurts us, what triggers us, what creates either negative or deep responses, you know, if we can wrestle with those questions and say, what does this in me? And the better we can show up for our people.
And how do I trust God? What would God have me to do? How does God want me to love? You know, what is my response? And sometimes it's not what we think and how we think we should respond. And that's what I want to come. What does God say about it? What does the word say? Even if it's forgiving something that seems unforgivable and that you can't forget, but still, you know, how do I love the way he would call me to love in this?
I can think of a couple of different times when I've been praying for one of my kids and I get the frustrating sort of answer from the father, like, because I want to know, what would you have me do to help them? Or what would you have me do to fix this? And that, you know, there are a couple of times he's really called me into like a trust question with him, because what he really is asking to do is give him space to work in their heart, that he doesn't really need me to do anything. Like he's got it, you know, and I'm like, but I want, you know, and I want them to have peace or solution or resolution or something faster. And I know when I don't have that peace or resolution, I know it's because he's teaching me something. He's getting me there, you know, and I need the time. Like he doesn't need me to need the time, you know, he can zap me differently, but he wants me to have that time so that but I try to hurry that time sometimes when he's working in their life, you know, because I don't want them to hurt like that. And so trusting him with that. So how do you incorporate in your stories faith and God? And I've been asking a similar question of this to the fiction authors I've been interviewing lately, because it's really intriguing to me, because I hear a lot of authors talk about how they get sort of like maybe negative reviews, either like there's too much God and Jesus in this, or they call this a Christian book and there's not enough God and Jesus in this. Like people have pretty different opinions about what that looks like. And so how do you decide? How do you decide how much God and Jesus, what kind of salvation message you do or do not put in, you know, what is that like for you, that process?
Well, I'm known in these parts as a holy roller, rolling. But, you know, God inspires, you know, each word. And so, you know, I pray about, you know, Lord, what do you want me to write? Like that, you know, over my laptop, like, what is it you want me to say? What is the story? I feel like, you know, he's laid this particular story in my heart, but what is the scripture that will be like the theme that's going to frame this whole book? And, you know, and then as I write, like, how is this wrapping background? My whole English training, I guess, goes back in, like, how does this support the theme? How does this support the word? And, you know, does this seem further along, you know, that scripture, that passage, you know, for this novel? And I know we talk about, you know, what is Christian fiction, and, you know, how, you know, what is the message? I think it should point to Jesus. I mean, it may not, you know, I think about the book of Esther, which is like one of my favorite books of the Bible. Like it just, you know, you laugh with it, you know what I mean? You're just like, and every time you read it, it's just amazing. Like, I just love it. But there's no God, there's no prayer, like those words, but he is present in every word. Yes. And he's in control, and you're not in any doubt, who it's about and who wrote it, who inspired it, and the point of the story. And so that's what my prayer is when I'm writing, like even if, characters are behaving, in a way that you would not think a Christian character would behave, because, we're human. Is it pointing to Jesus? Even in the brokenness of the characters, does it lead, to Jesus, that we see that is the answer, the Lord, so that's always my prayer, and always what I'm working toward,
Yeah. So what do people mean when they call you the holy roller? I have to circle back and ask you, what does that mean to them? Why do they do that?
It just slips out. Like, we'll be talking about, I have a cereal, and somehow, my kids, I could see the eye rolling, just because it's going to come back to, and the Lord said,
no,
he would want you to make your bed. Orderly, it's just funny how but that's live and breathe and, move and have my being. And I'm so grateful to him. Like, he reached out and scooped me up like a sieve, and it's still like a bunch of clunky stuff still in the spoon, but it's stripping away, eventually it'll just be how he designed me. I know, but
I love that. Yeah. My kids, if they really want, like when if they're trying to get me to back off, they'll say something like that. Everything needs to be a sermon, mom, or whatever. And it makes me mad. And they know it makes me mad, because I'm like, I am just telling you that, because they know I'm right. Like in that moment, like, when I'm telling them good things, when I'm telling them the promises of God, like, like they can't argue with that. So they'll just pick at me. Like, I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I've gotten to know him. Like,
yes.
Not sorry.
Yeah. And you should be grateful. Let me tell you, you don't want Robin unchurched.
You don't want me to tell you what I think.
So you don't want the unabridged. No. Yeah.
Oh, funny. So one of the things that I've read that you have written is that you believe that we cannot have peace with others until we have peace with God. I'm laughing because I'm like, isn't that what we're just talking about with the family dynamics and all that? But why is that such a strong value of yours, or strong belief of yours, that we can't have peace with our people, if you will, or others, even not our people, right? Or maybe others, even like sort of generically, others out there that we don't even know, until we have peace with God. What's that about for you?
Like, he's our source. I was thinking about power outages. We were talking about that discussion a few weeks ago. We lost power. It was one evening, some friends had come into town, and there wasn't a storm. Like, all of a sudden the lights just went out, and I had made this cake, and we call it heavenly cake, because the kids tried to call it Jesus's favorite cake, but I was like, I don't know. I don't work with that. We'll just call it heavenly cake. And it's this chocolate cake, and it takes like 20 minutes to make, because you've partially cooked some of the things on the stove, and you pour this and you put it in the oven for 20 minutes. Well, we have a gas stove, and the oven itself is gas. So, but when the power went out, we thought, okay, it'll still cook because we have gas. However, I guess the igniter or whatever it is, that's related to electricity. Like, we're on well, but still, like, all of that still needed the electricity. And so it didn't work. Like, we ended up pulling the cake out when the lights really came back on, and it just, it didn't rise. Like, it got almost there and didn't rise, because it didn't have the source. It didn't have, electricity. And we thought we have gas, we have all these other things we could rely on, but we didn't have that. And so that's how I think about it with, God, we can have all these, have a marriage, you can have kids, and you can have happiness, and you can have activities and all these things. But if you don't have the source, there's not going to be peace, and there's not going to be truth in that. There's not going to be real love, because he is love. Like, he is those things. He is peace. He is truth. He is love. He is joy. So we can't get our joy and peace from circumstances and from, activities and people, because those things change. Our circumstances change. The weather changes, thunderstorms today. And because I'm the greatest weather watcher there is, my weather app, like, I look 2 weeks ahead to plan, but that changes. You can't even predict a thunderstorm. It breaks up and fronts change, but God doesn't. So how can you rely on something that's temporary and mercurial? You have to rely on the person who doesn't change. So that's, why I say that, like we're looking for our identity in so many different things in our culture and our race, and, and those things will fail you. They will fail you. I mean, you will fail you. You won't behave or say those things that you thought you were going to say. But God won't. He won't fail. So yeah, if we don't have that relationship with him and that peace with him, we can't extend it. You can't extend what you don't have. So
you can't extend what you don't have. Yeah. Isn't that's true about his peace and the mercy, I think, forgiveness. I've said that before about forgiveness. Like the more that we're in touch with our need for mercy, and we are precious, and we are, but we are sinful, and we need his mercy daily, and the more we're in touch for that, I think the quicker, the quicker, at least for me, I am to extend that to someone else, to give someone else the benefit of the doubt. The more we're in touch with his hope and the fact that the victory is already won, the more that we can encourage other people in that, when in their struggle. So I absolutely think that's such a good example about the cake and the source. It's so relatable. Yeah. Will you let us look into your life just a little bit? Like, what do you do practically to reconnect to that source when one of your children is giving you angst, when your husband is giving you angst, when your family, whatever, not that ever happens, except I'm sure it does.
Probably more like the other way around that I'm giving.
But what do you do? Because I know that you know that. So how do we live it out when it raises its head?
I can tell, like, when I haven't been doing my Bible study, and when I haven't been doing my devotions, and just like I see in my own life, like because you get busy and it's like you don't have time to do those things. I've been working on a deadline for a while, and we have so many different things going on in our life with my parents, and with just family life and health and all those things. And it could be easy to, okay, Jesus, I'm gonna, thank you, Lord, for waking me up this morning, and just keep it moving, but I can tell when I don't stay in the word, just start with it. And, when I say I'm going to write, they know I'm coming in here into this room and this green chair over here, and I'm starting with my devotional. I'm, starting with, and this is great book that I got from Tyndall sent me, and I'm working through it slowly. It's supposed to be 100 days, and I'm probably like on day 150 at this point, but just working through it slowly about, when I rise, because it's just scripture. I really just want scripture, and to hear the Lord speak to me, because it's when you're reading other people's words and that's all you're reading, it's their interpretation, and it's not, and God is our intercessor. He's what we need, and we don't need someone to filter it, So I really try to stick with that. This 1-year Bible that I've been working through the second year, and just sticking with reading, because I know that he just reveals so much that I can apply to my relationships and apply to what I'm writing. So just trying to start, and just in the middle of the day, maybe I'm not even starting at 6 o'clock, first, but making sure that I'm in, the word just throughout the day. And music, I love music. I love music. It just speaks to my soul. So playing that when I'm doing things, and
I love music too. I have playlists that I have a playlist on my phone that I've just kind of added to for years, and I'll go through there sometimes if I'm struggling or a little bit down or feeling the angst, and I will play some of those songs that remind me of his faithfulness in a previous season, like because sometimes if I'm really struggling with something, he'll bring a word through a song, and I'll just play it over and over again for a little bit, and I will remember how he spoke to me, like how he just like caressed my aching soul, with that song. And sometimes I'll do that just even if I just remember how he's loved you before, right? Just remember how he's loved you before.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what he does in his word. Like, when you look at, and I say that in the book too, like when you have to look back, sometimes you can't see it when you're in it, and you have to remember, like, how has he delivered? How has he been faithful? How, what have I been through before? And then, it'll help you through this moment, even when you don't have the answers, and there's, the problem still exists, but how has God, brought you from here to this point.
Yeah.
In
Right.
order to just put one step in front of the other.
Because it builds our confidence that we'll go to the next point, right? Like, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is that hope. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask a little bit more about the book because I want people to really understand. Just understand. I want them to be hungry for getting this book into their hands, I guess is the right way to say it. But without giving anything away, would you just do like a quick overview and also talk to us about the title, Walking in Tall Weeds? Where did that come from? Don't give anything away, but give your quick like sort of overview of what readers will find if they pick up a copy of Walking in the Tall Weeds.
Well, it's, I think it's easier to write 400 words than to, tell you.
Yes. Oh my goodness. The elevator pitch of your project is like the hardest thing, is it not? Yes. That's what they call it, right? That like little quick, what's your book about? Here's two sentences. Yeah. It's hard.
Terrible at that. Yes. But with Walking in Tall Weeds, it's tending those untended places in your life. You think about, you look out in your yard, especially with my husband with broken leg, there are going to be a lot of untended places out there because I'm not a yard person. Outside is wonderful to look at, but it's when you have to go through some of those things, like, that direct path, it's wonderful, it's clear, but sometimes you have to veer off of that, and the shortest way or the most direct way or the best way is going through taller grass. It's going through some of the rocky parts of the road. It's not, paved and I guess well-tended, I guess. And that's what these characters are doing. They, Frederick Baldwin accuses his wife at one point of just, you're going in those, tall weeds at and she's dealing with, okay, my son is coming home and I want to cover all these things and I want to talk about these different things. And she's kind of getting distracted from, just the relationship and just the enjoyment. Because that's what we do, as moms, right? We get caught up in the doing and not just in the being with our family. And those are the weeds, all that doing, all the tasks and the chores and the lessons as homeschoolers, was just being. And so, but sometimes those things are also necessary. So that's what the book is about. It's about, going through those hard places, those untended places in order to, get to the next, in our relationships, like as we're dealing with others, there are weeds there as well, like where you think it's good, I'm being a good Christian or, a good person, but there's hardness in your heart where you're remembering the past. You remember how you've been insulted. You remember how you've been abused, how you've been hurt, how my family has been hurt. And that's how you approach those relationships, from a hurt place. And with that in mind, and that's how you relate. You're not dealing truthfully, and honestly with other people, because that's there and you really haven't forgiven, or even if you have done the forgiveness, like it's a process.
It is,
over and over. Yeah. And so it's dealing with those things, pulling those weeds out and coming from an honest place and handling it, tending to your garden, tending to your heart. So
I love that.
I don't know.
Did I that's great. No, that's wonderful. Yeah. You mentioned earlier about having a scripture sometimes for your work. Is there a scripture in particular that was linked, that kind of was a guide for you, a theme in this book?
Well, there's like at the beginning of the book, the dedication and all, where I started out, it's Psalm 51:6 with behold, you desire truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part, you will make me to know wisdom. And so that, these characters have a problem with showing their, true selves and their true thoughts, even with, in this couple who've been married, over 30 years, and showing her, Paulette just struggles, like, this is what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, but what do they want me to say? And how am I supposed to react to this? And but the Lord knows that inward part. And when we're hiding those things, we can't have, honest and just relationships that flourish, because those weeds are choking out all of that. Those thoughts and those fears are choking out that love. Also 1 Corinthians 13, I think it may be 7, with, love, that whole 13, yes. With love is patient, love is kind, all of yes. that. But love perseveres, it never fails.
Never fails.
endures all things.
Yeah.
And there are so many things, in our world today, like it's that we have to endure, but it comes out on the other side. It does kind of sometimes get clouded, that the love that we have, for each other. But knowing, okay, I was reading, I think, something about Tony Evans, where he says, we're Christians, we're believers, and not letting those other things that are a part of us, of who we are and how you can describe us, but that's how you can describe us, but who are you?
Yeah.
And I'm a believer, I'm a child of God. And that's how I should come to you, and how I relate to you through that, not through this other layer of, I'm the daughter of, Robert Thomasino, or, I'm Black, or I'm short, or, all, any of those things.
Yeah. Or I'm a mom of this many and I homeschool and I'm a writer,
I homeschool,
right.
Yes,
because those are
who am
important
I?
things. We were just talking in church on Sunday about it's Revelation 10 and 11, where the elders cast their crowns before the heavenly throne, right? And sing, only you are worthy. And we talked about, what is this idea of like our crown? Like, because there are crowns that, like, these are actual things that we've accomplished, or who we are, or the things that but will we say, actually, though, you're the only one that creates anything. Everything that I've created is because you created something through which I created it with, you know what I mean? Like everything. And so will we say, yes, this is who I am, but ultimately we lay that down in humble adoration of the fact that there's nothing that I've done or that I am without you,
Right. Yeah.
And that gives me chills just saying it again, because even I've been like sitting in it for a couple of weeks, because it's been convicting to me, because there is a safety in those crowns, whatever those are. And a lot of them, for you, for me, for others that are in ministry, with the crown, they're like made up of good things. They're not wrong, but they're wrong if we need them, they're wrong if we won't lay them down. So I hear you. Yeah. That's beautiful.
But just like those crowns are for him, like the weaknesses too, right? The struggle.
Yes.
That the golden crown, then the thorny crown.
Right. Excellent point.
So,
Because will I give it to you believing in your promises that you work all things together for good? Will I give that to you believing that you want me? It's okay that we look at it. I know there was a period in my life that I was very afraid of sort of casting that thorny crown before him, because I'm like, when I cast it before you, I feel like I can't control the narrative with it anymore. Right. Like, and I never did. I mean, I know that's a myth anyway, but like, if we're going to start talking about this and working, I don't know where that'll take me. And I don't know that I trust you enough to let it take me wherever it's going to take me, So yeah, that's good. That's good, Robin. So, well, let me ask you before I let you go, because I always ask this of my guests, and that is, you mentioned a Bible resource already, and music and some other things. So we kind of know already, but is there anything in particular you'd like to share with us that you're using, studying, listening to, watching, that's kind of just, it's just a good resource and something that's really helping you in your walk with the Lord right now?
Does HGTV count? No.
Yes. No. It can.
House Hunters.
House Hunters is perfect. Unless it makes you covet someone else's house, then it's not working for you, right?
Hometown is actually my favorite show. But anyway, it's just funny. I just read this book by Toni Shiloh, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but it's called The Search of a Prince. And I'm not like I don't read romance. Like, it's not my genre necessarily, but oh my goodness, like it's like just the character just is so prayerful, and it was unexpected. And just how, she just like, this is how, Lord, it helped me to be this way. I know this is a fictional character, but just coming to you just really honestly and in my need, and just talking to you, just you're sitting here with me, and just comfortable with you. And it just really has stayed with me. Because, you think you have to be a certain way. My daughter, she was in Europe for a couple of weeks after graduating from college, and had just a traumatic time trying to get back. Like, she got stuck in Germany, and it was just, I had to call and do all these different things and try to help her get home. And so when she, got back to the country, she went to her apartment, and she said, I just need to stay here and get myself together before I can come home. And that's how we feel. Like, we have to get ourselves together before we can go home with the Lord, just be at home with him. And it's like, I told her, you don't have to this is where you can be to pieces, you can just tumbled into the house with your stuff, just everywhere, your inner stuff. I mean, everywhere. You don't have to be together and to come home. And that's how with Christ, like we don't need to be together. And I think I try to be together too much with him, and so I don't know, the book, it was good for me to see that someone and just trusting him to answer. And I don't know, sometimes I think I'm just talking and I'm not trusting him and waiting and knowing he will answer. But he says it, like he says it all the time. I come to me. Come to me. And that's what,
come to me even when you are in pieces.
Yes.
Because this is the place to be all in pieces. That's what you just said about your daughter. I love that. What was the name of the book again?
It's In Search of a Prince.
In Search of a Prince.
Yes. It's really good. And it's just a great story.
Yeah.
It was I don't take time to read a lot, unless I'm, reading for work or endorsing, I'm also reading this book by Patricia Raybon, her second book, and that it's not out yet, but she's wonderful. And so it's just, I don't take time to do it, like, because I'm either working toward a deadline or I'm reading something for school, or, it's nice. It was nice just to read, like because we've been home and having to be home for a little bit. So it was nice just to pick up a book and curl up and stay up till 3. Like I stayed up and I should have been asleep. And it was great though. It was just reminded of those good old days before kids.
Yeah.
You could just read for just no reason. So anyway, it was good though.
I have to ask about Patricia because she was here not too long ago talking about her first All That Is Secret, right? Is this another Annalee Spain mystery that you're reading? Yes.
And I'm excited that I get to
that's really wonderful.
And just
Patricia is a gem.
Wow, how can you ask me for my opinion? Like who cares what I have to say?
I love that.
So, she's so wonderful. Like she's so encouraging. Yes. Like even when she responds to you online, and it's like, no, I'm not amazing, Robin.
Yeah.
Robin.
I just so brave. We talked about just what a pivot at that place of her career where it would be much safer to just stay in the lane she's in, but to pivot and do fiction now at this point in her career. Yeah. So if you're listening, I'll link that episode too, because Patricia was here with us talking about her first novel, All That Is Secret. But Robin's new novel is Walking in Tall Weeds. I want to get that right. And I believe that it releases July 19th. Is that right?
It does. Yes, it does.
And so if you're listening to this, when it drops, it released just this week. And so you can get your copy of it wherever books are sold, and you can find and follow Robin at robinwpearson.com. And I will link that, her book, the other episode with Robin, and all the places you can find and follow her in today's show notes. So please check it out. And Robin, as always, it is an absolute delight to spend time with you, my friend. Thank you again.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And friend, thank you for listening. Until next time, peace. Isn't she fantastic? Thank you, Robin, for spending time with us today. Robin's most recent book, again, is Walking in Tall Weeds, and it was released into the world on July 19th, 2022. You can find it and other books written by Robin wherever books are sold. And I encourage you to listen to more of Robin and also my chat with Lisa, Maria, and Patricia Raybon in earlier episodes linked in today's show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I pray wherever your day takes you, you are walking in the confident knowledge that you are a beloved, cherished child of God. Peace.